y'all. Michelle here with the Unapologetically Michelle Show. We are back again with another episode. You know how I like to do it. I like to bring on individuals who are brilliant, fabulous, gorgeous, and talented. And tonight will be no different. Tonight we have Ronald Godfrey that is here with us. And there is some things about him that you all need to know. So I'll stop talking. And Ronald, why don't you introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. My name is Ronald Godfrey. I go by Ron for stage, of course. I'm an actor. I've been an actor now for 10 years, and my acting career is going really well. Started in theater, and now I'm doing a lot of film and TV. And I'm also an author. Have an autobiography out called Crying Out in the Dark. Also an entrepreneur. I have a activewear clothing line called Grind and Conquer. And so, yeah, I'm doing a lot. God has been good, and he's blessing me.
I think that is so fabulous to find out that you are doing other things that are considered creative in nature. A
Mhm.
lot of times we don't think about how that creativity really plays in with every other aspect of our lives because we live multifaceted lives. So there's
Right.
nothing that is just completely one way or another. There's always other sides to us. So I want to jump right in. How did you get into acting? How did
Wow.
that come about? How did you one day woke up and said, you know what? I think I'm going to be an actor.
How did you know that? Who told you that? That's exactly what happened. Michelle, I had never ever dreamt of being an actor. I've always dreamt of being an entertainer when it came to music because I sing and I play keyboards along with guitar and drums. And one day I just, like you said, woke up and said, you know what? I'm going to become an actor. And I went to, I was living in Alabama at the time, and I went to an audition in Canton, Georgia, which is about a 2 hour and 10-minute ride. And I was there for a 10-minute audition. Now, mind you, I'm going in head first, not knowing what to expect, nothing. And after 10 minutes, the director says, okay, we'll call you. Thank you. I'm like, what? You gonna call me? Do you realize how long I just drove? And just before I left the building, she called me back to the table and she said, Ron, we're going to give you the part. And so that was the beginning of my acting career. And here I am 10 years later, and I'm on major platforms such as HBO Max, Hulu, Prime, Tubi, and the list goes on.
So how did you feel when she told you, okay, you've got the part? What went through your head? How emotionally were you able to deal with that bit of news?
Actually, I was in awe because, again, minutes prior, I was, like, I couldn't believe like you sending me home after 10 minutes. I drove 2 hours to be here to audition. And then when she called me back to the table and said, hey, we're going to give you the part, I was like, wow, I remember hugging her, and now to this day, we're still very close. And I got in the car and I remember, tears coming to my eyes because I was really happy because, again, I didn't know what to expect. It was my very first time. I jumped head first in, and it was a beautiful feeling. And 4 months after that, I was on stage, debuting.
So let's go back to the ride. You said it was a 2 hour ride.
2 hours and 10 minutes
What
from.
was going through your mind in that 2 hour and 10 minute ride?
um I was like, well, here we go. It's all or nothing, and I'm going, and I'm going to give it my best shot. And I was just praying all the way. I said, Lord, okay, I'm starting. I'm getting into a whole new realm. I'm getting into a whole new field here. New career. Again, totally blinded, not knowing where to go, because when I actually found the audition, I didn't even know where to look. And I started pushing buttons on the laptop and came up with a website that has listings of casting and auditions and everything like that. And so I'm just riding down the road. I got my music playing, trying to keep my mind together and everything. And yeah, that's how it was.
So you also said that you are musically inclined, that you basically are your own band, so to speak. For any of those that are in church, you'll catch it on the way out.
Right.
How did you get started musically?
Well, my mother and father, my father is now deceased, God rest his soul, but both of them were, into music. My father played guitar and he sang. And my mother, she started on the piano. She didn't quite, go forward with it, but she's a singer as well. And so it all started in church, of course. You know, I started off playing drums, and then I went from the drums to the guitar, from the guitar to the piano, and I stuck with the piano because I just, it's something about piano music that just really, it does something to me. So yeah.
So I want to get in. I'm gonna switch gears here. So
Okay,
we're gonna get a little personal here.
let's get personal.
Okay, so you said that you have an autobiography that's out in the marketplace. Tell us the name of it again.
It's called Crying Out in the Dark.
How did you come about that title?
um I came about that title based upon things that were going on in my life. Think the way I felt. I suffered with depression. um there were times when I made attempts on my life, because things were so dark. I had been through so much. I faced a lot of rejection, trying to fit in here and there, a lot of rejection in relationships and everything like that. And there were also times in my life where times were dark with, between my father and I. And I just felt like I was in a dark place. And it felt like being on an island where there's no light at all. And I'm just crying out and no one could hear me. So I'm just crying out, in the dark, trying to find the light of life. You know, if you look at the book cover, one half of my face is in complete darkness. All you can see is my eye, and then the other half is in the light because I'm searching for the light.
Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper here. I want to go because there may be some young men
Okay.
that are experiencing some of the stuff that you have experienced in your life,
Okay.
that are looking for someone that they can connect to, someone that they know chose life.
Okay.
And as you know as well as I do, the choosing was probably the easiest thing. The actual walking it out was what was difficult.
Right.
And so you had mentioned that. I want to start off first with, in what it is that you were describing in the book, give us an example. Give us a story or something that's in the book that they can pick up from and relate to, as if you were talking to another young man. Because let's face it, one of the highest numbers of suicide is happening within the Black community.
That's exactly right.
Black females have superseded Black males.
Yes.
And not just Black females, but teens to early 20s females seem to be choosing suicide over life.
Right.
But our Black men, our young men, are right behind that number. So understanding that, what got you to that point? You mentioned rejection and depression, but something had to get you
To
to
that
that
point.
point. Something
Right.
had to happen that resulted in you feeling that way emotionally and mentally.
It was a number of things. Let me start here. I remember, and I talk about it, not to try not to give too much information because I want people, to read it. But there were a couple of situations where that involved babysitters, where they were inappropriate with me, so to speak. And if I may, I'll be detailed if I may.
Go ahead.
I had one of my babysitters. She allowed me to play with her body parts, and her words to me were that I had to learn so that when I got older, I would know what to do with a woman. And she taught me how to penetrate, and I'm young. I didn't know what was going on, of course, you know. Then there was another instance where the son of one of my babysitters, I love this particular babysitter. She's an older woman, of course. Her son tried to get me to perform oral sex on him. And I yelled out really loud and got her attention, and she intervened, of course. But all of that stuck with me. Um, and if I may go further, I dealt with a lot of rejection from females that I may have tried to form a relationship with, ex-wives, um, being told no, or being told that they didn't have time. And I'll give a specific. I really liked this girl, and I remember taking her out to eat, and I rented a limousine and the whole nine. And at the end of the date, her words to me was, I can't see you. And I said, why? And she says, you're too nice. I'll run all over you. Now, prior to that, I had already been having some bad luck with relationships again, because I had even been rejected because I wore glasses, So, and I asked her to repeat that. I said, repeat that for me. She said, you're too nice. I'll run all over you. And so that really hurt, and being told that, I was crying too much and I needed to man up and all that kind of stuff. It's just it was a group of things, or a conglomerate of things that built up, that led me to the point of wanting to take my life.
Wow.
And the first time that I made the attempt, I was standing on train tracks.
Do what?
Yeah. I was dressed in a black suit, and I was standing on the tracks waiting for the next train to come.
Stick and stay as we take a brief commercial break. Have you ever felt like the world was closing in on you, suffocating you in the darkness? Well, author Ron Godfrey knows that feeling all too well. In his book, Crying Out in the Dark, he shares his raw and emotional journey through the struggles we all face in life. Through his deeply personal stories of adversity, struggles, depression, and rejection, Ron Godfrey's Crying Out in the Dark offers a powerful message of hope and resilience to those who are lost in the darkness. Ron shares that he wrote this book from the depths of his soul, pouring out all of his pain, heartache, and even the triumphs he's experienced in life. He says it is his hope that readers will find comfort in knowing that they are not alone in their struggles, and that there is a way out of the darkness. Experience the raw emotion and inspiring resilience of Crying in the Dark. Order your copy today and take the first step toward finding the light in the midst of the darkness. You may know his name, but not his story. Be sure to pick up your copy of Crying Out in the Dark today. Now back to our conversation.
Yeah. And a phone call is what saved me.
Well, thank God for the phone call.
The phone call, and it was the words that were said to me was, "How are you?" And at that moment, I felt like someone actually cared about how I actually felt. Because for a long time, I felt like nobody, cared about how I felt. They didn't care about what I said. If I felt like my feelings or thoughts didn't matter, because if I tried to explain myself, I was told, "Oh, stop thinking like that. That's foolishness." I was turned away like that. And I tell people now, if someone comes to you and tries to express themselves, don't do that, because that could send them over the edge. That could be very detrimental. And in my case,
Wow.
it was almost there.
I think, thank you for your transparency and your honesty there, because I think a lot of times in the Black community, let's face it, there are certain things that we just didn't talk about.
Right.
Molestation on any level was not discussed. Rejection, definitely not, but also mental health. Those
Mm-hmm.
were topics that we didn't talk about, period.
Right. Right.
Um, like you, I grew up in church. And so the first thing people want to tell you, well, go pray about it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, what am I supposed to do when I've been praying about it and I still don't feel like I got an answer?
Right.
What do I do at that point? And so understanding the things that you've gone through and where it led you to on those train tracks and that call. When that individual asked you, "How are you?" Was that the minute that you felt like you started seeing the light, that there was some light at the end of that tunnel?
I did. I remember standing there, and when I heard those words, immediately I started crying. Immediately, because again, I felt like it's like finally somebody cares. you know, After all these years, somebody finally cares about me. Care because I'm a giver. I care about people, period. And I've always been a giver. I've always been the one to be concerned about others. I'll put myself last, and everything like that. And finally, there was someone that thought enough about my feelings and what was going on with me. And I remember I was just crying like crazy, and I walked off the tracks.
Wow. I want to go back to something that you said before I tap into that part where you were
Okay.
talking about the young woman that you had really liked and you had taken her out, and she said that she would not be able to see you anymore because
Okay.
she would walk all over you because you were too nice. I think for a lot of women, we will make those type of statements because we're not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It really has nothing to do with you per se. It's just that we know ourselves and we know that we're not in a healthy place. So any sign of weakness or what we consider to be weakness is an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for us to take advantage of the situation and make it all about us. And instead of, I wish she would have explained what she meant by that so
Mm-hmm.
that it would not impact your relationships going forward, especially with yourself.
Right. And I wouldn't
I
have let her
know
out the car.
myself. Huh?
And I wouldn't have let her out the car.
Got it.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I've been in situations to where I have used those very words.
Okay.
And I've had to, but I didn't leave it there. I explained to them where I was in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that because I have such a strong personality, if I don't see a strong personality in you, then that's an opportunity for me to be stronger than what I see you being. And that
Mm-hmm.
was a shortcoming on my part. It really had nothing to do with them. It was an opportunity for me to learn about Michelle and to
Gotcha.
figure out, why do I see that? Why am I seeing that? And then the next thing is, we always want to say there's no good men out there after we've made those statements. And then
That
we
part.
want to say
Right.
there's no good men out there.
Right.
Well, yes, there is, because you had somebody who was willing to take a chance on you, and because they did not look like, sound like, or act like the way that you thought a strong man should look based on your limited information, then
Mm-hmm.
you rejected them, not realizing that that rejection can feed insecurities within the other individual. So on behalf of women, I apologize because I know I've said those very words. And actually hearing you say that, it has opened up a whole nother level of understanding that I hope women, when they see and hear this, will understand that our words do matter. And sometimes they have the power to inflict pain that we never intended or expected it to happen.
Right.
And so the other thing that you talked about, which I think is very important, was the molestation that you experienced in your younger years,
Hmm.
and how it informed your relationship with women going forward. How
Right.
did you change that information, that perspective, in order to get your mindset healthy so that you were dealing with healthy relationships going forward?
Um, well, again, when that happened, I was very young.
Hmm.
Um, I was anywhere between the ages of, I want to say, 5 and 7, between those ages. And so, but I remembered it vividly, enough to, put it in my book. And how I got through it was just remembering, I guess, seeing different things and hearing about different situations similar, growing up and after I became an adult and started having children of my own. I was like, somebody do that to my child, it's going to be a serious, serious problem, you know, because I remember how I felt when it was done to me. And I did everything that I could to protect my children, and to talk to them and just be involved and be aware, of their actions, of their moods, the whole nine, and so that's basically how I dealt with that.
Okay. So I know too, that you have experienced a great loss, and you've been very, very open, about the situations leading up to that loss, and even your grieving after the loss. So why don't you share with us what that looked like on a father's perspective?
Mm. Whew. Um, you know, I used to hear this saying all the time that, you know, the parent or the children are supposed to bury the parents, you know, but having to bury a child, and a young child at that, it's on a whole different level. So a whole different level. Um, and it's actually 3 months today that I lost my son, my 6-year-old son. And my grieving process, to be honest with you, has somewhat been mm, interrupted. I haven't really been able to grieve properly because of other situations that have come up in the midst. And but I do have my moments where I'm by myself, and I have my moment. I cry, or I'll yell out, or whatever it is. And I don't want another. I don't want any other parent to experience another father. I mean, parents, period. But if I may talk from a father's perspective,
Hmm.
you know, I don't want another father to go through what I just recently went through. You know, um, you make plans for your children. You see yourself. You see a nice, suit in the window, or a nice pair of, shoes, or whatever. You have different plans, and you want to say, hey, I want to do this with my son, I want to do that. And to know that I can't live those plans out, it's not easy to deal with. It's not easy at all.
They say that out of loss comes purpose.
Hmm.
So if that saying is true, how does that relate to your situation?
Losing my son, of course, was probably, well, no, not probably, is the biggest loss of my life. I've taken losses, with divorce and different things of that nature. But losing my son is the biggest loss. But what it has done, it has actually put fire up under me. I want to help make sure the best way possible that, again, other parents don't experience this. He died from brain cancer. It's a rare tumor that he had, and it's called DIPG, or the initial spell out diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. And it's a rare tumor, and 300 to 400 children are diagnosed with that each year.
Okay.
And the lifespan after diagnosis is 6 to 11 months. 6 to 11 months. When it forms, it's already malignant, already, because it grows on the brain stem.
Mm-hmm.
It's malignant and it's inoperable, So I hate to put it in this form, but it's the truth. It's already a death sentence from the beginning. And that's hard. That's very hard. And to date, there's no cure. So now my purpose and my objective is to help researchers release a cure or find a cure for this tumor. And my son is the driving force behind that. Of course I miss him. Again, I miss him. I miss him dearly. But I know he's not suffering anymore. And if I may share, I remember my prayer to God. And I said, Lord, I've read about your work. I've seen you work. I believe in you and I trust you. Now, Lord, if it's your will, I'm asking you to restore my son fully. But if it's not your will, I'm going to ask you to take him, because I don't want him here suffering, can't get up out the bed to play with the other kids, can't run, can't talk, can't do any of that. And that's what happened. He couldn't. He got to the point where he couldn't. And he pushed through. I mean, my son was so resilient, even in a wheelchair. His speech had slurred and everything, but he still wanted to go to Dave and Buster's. He still wanted to go to CC's Pizza. He still wanted to do everything a child would want to do. Mm-hmm. And myself and his mom, we did not tell him that he couldn't. We always made ways to do what he wanted to do, until he just couldn't do anymore. He got to the point where he didn't even want to go to the doctor anymore. He got tired. And his courage, his resilience, his will to fight fueled me to put together a foundation in his memory.
Stick and stay as we take a brief commercial break. Bledsoe Publishing Company introduces our newest journal, the Unapologetically Blacknificent Intentional Living Journal, for both men and women. In this journal, you will be provided with the tools to take the next 31 days and choose you, your happiness, and your passions. The 3 sections in the journal are designed to help you live a fulfilling life while celebrating the beauty and richness found in the African American culture. It's time for you to make a much needed investment in you and begin living your life out loud and in living color. Begin today by conquering your fears and living purposefully, intentionally, and unapologetically when you make your personal investment into your future self. Pick up your copy today at www.bledsoepublishing.com. Now back to our conversation.
And now we have the Jeremiah L. Godfrey Brain Cancer Research Foundation in his memory. Just launched it last month. Well, December.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, I think there's a saying within the church body that says that God gives his hardest battles, toughest battles to his greatest warriors.
Yeah.
I believe that to a certain extent. I believe that God allows us to see how strong we really are and how resilient that we can be. In the same vein, I've been there. My brother passed away 2 years ago last month, from an inoperable form of cancer that was very, very rare. Crazy thing about it is only found in teenage white young men.
Wow. Wow.
My brother was not white. And so it brought about that same thing, that urgency. And so there were different things that we could do as well to try to help and to be an inspiration to others that were dealing with it, because of the population that got it, which was a very, very small population within the United States. Anyone that was non-white, it was less than 1% that would get it. And he fell in that less than 1%. And so I think a lot of times we forget to go through the process of grieving, even though we've got other things that are going on. And one of the things that God really dealt with me about is when you're starting to feel bad, allow the memories to come. Exactly. Allow the emotions to be released. Because if you don't, then it'll be internal. And it'll be another struggle for you to have to deal with. And that was one of the biggest lessons. And whenever I get in those moments, then I'll celebrate him. I might put a post up on Facebook. I might call my mom and talk about him. You know, something that makes him real and alive in our hearts and minds. And so I encourage you that even as you go through this process of grieving and mourning, that you find out what works best for you. And then make sure, even the same time we make appointments to go to doctors and to do other stuff, set time aside and tell yourself, okay, I need to take a day here, or I need to take a half a day there, and deal with that emotional and that mental to ensure that you can keep showing up in the spaces and places that God has already ordained for you to show up in. Because there's still people that are waiting to see you, to get to know you, to experience what it is that you have to offer the world. And so I want to go back to something that you said. Okay. You had talked about your relationship with your father.
Okay.
I'm a daddy's girl.
Okay.
My dad was my everything. He was my hero, my everything, and all of that. And so when I hear that individuals struggled in their relationship with their fathers, I'm always curious to what that looked like. So what did that look like for you? That challenge that you had in the relationship with your dad?
Well, first of all, again, he's deceased now. So, you know, God rest his soul. My father was a good man, but our relationship was a little rocky as I got older. And started seeing things with my own eyes, and, you know, observing different things and witnessing, you know, all that kind of stuff. I saw how he was when it came to interacting with other women, still being married to my mother at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after, their divorce, I saw different things, and then even when it came to me, there were some things that he had done um, that just didn't set well with me,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, and it really, as I got older, I remember going to my mother. I was about maybe 16 or 17 at the time. And I remember going to my mother and telling her, I said, Mom, I said, I see why you left Daddy. And one thing she never did, she never said anything bad about him to me. She never did that. And she told me later on in life, as a matter of fact, when I went to her that day and said that, she said, son, she said, I never said anything bad about your father to you. She said, because I knew that this day right here would come,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I remember just sitting there and I just unloaded, you know, of things that I had witnessed and things that I had heard and stuff like that. And it was unreal. And like I said, it was some things that happened directly with me, you know. Like for instance, found out that he was trying to talk to the same girl that I liked, you know. And that just, and the way I found out was I found letters, you know, I found letters that they had been, writing back and forth to each other, and I held that for a long time. I held that for a long time. And it was not long before he passed away that and it was years had gone past.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't long before he passed away when I revealed to him that I knew about it.
So, in as it relates to your relationship with your dad and the different things that you saw for yourself, nobody had to come and tell you. If
Mm-hmm.
there's another young man that is dealing with a similar relationship, maybe not the exact same thing, but the struggle in the relationship, a lot of people will say, I'll say this first before I ask the question. A lot of people will say, young men identify with their mothers more than they identify with their fathers. What I have learned raising two sons is that they identify more with their fathers in how they are going to be a man. Either they will be just like them or they will be the complete opposite. And the woman that's in their lives will be either a complete opposite of their mother or exactly like their mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it as with that in mind, for a young man that is going through what you went through with your dad, what advice would you give him about how to handle himself? Because we can only change ourselves. We can't change another individual.
Right.
However, we can change how we interact with that individual. We can change how we view that individual, and we can change the memories that we decide to hold in our hearts regarding that individual. So, what would you say to those young men out there that are going through what you went through?
Well, first I would say, pray and ask God for guidance. Um, I would also say if there's something going on or has gone on, um, don't wait so long. Talk to your father about it. Talk to your father about it, and especially if you know what you're witnessing is not right, do everything you can in your power to be the opposite. Because I remember telling my mother, I said, Mama, I don't want to be like Daddy. I don't want to be like that. You know, um, because I saw things at a young age, and I saw it for years to the point where because it, and I think it's with anybody. If you look at something, or you're in the midst of something for so long, starting at a young age, you'll begin to think that that's the way to be,
Mm-hmm.
or there's right to that, and it's not. So if you know right from wrong, you know talk about it. Don't God, for God's sakes, don't hold it in, because as you're holding it in, time is passing by, you know, and time is something you can't get back. And we don't have a lot of time. We have more time behind us than we do in front of us. So I would say, you know, if you're noticing something, address it. Address it right away if you can. You know, choose your words, you know, because you don't want to get, of course, you don't want to get in an altercation where you're being disrespectful with, you know, to your parents, you know, or to your father. But I would address it right away, and you know, go from there.
Very wise words. Very wise words. So as we come to a close of our conversation today,
Okay.
got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So, who is your favorite or your most inspirational actor or actress?
Oh, wow, Michelle. Oh, that's an unfair question. That's an unfair question because I have more than one. Oh man. Okay, so I'm gonna pick one. Okay. I'm gonna say Samuel L. Jackson.
I did not see that one. I thought, as you was like, man, there's so many. I can't. Okay, I'm gonna choose one. I just knew what was gonna come out of your mouth was Denzel Washington.
I knew you thought that. and most people would say that. Most people would say that. And if I may add, I also have to add Forrest Whitaker.
Okay, so why those two men? Because they are kind of off the cuff of what people would normally say. So why those two men?
Because they're underrated.
Okay.
I think they're, especially Forrest Whitaker. I think he is very much underrated. They're both magnificent actors. I've been told that my facial expression, the way I express myself in my films and everything like that, remind them of Samuel L. Jackson and everything like that, which I think is funny because my facial expressions will talk. So, but those two actors are so, especially Forrest Whitaker, they're like so, I mean, captivating. Not saying Denzel isn't, but you know, and I guess I chose those two actors because those are two actors that I would love to work with.
Okay.
You know, Samuel Jackson, he's just raw. I mean, he's
Definitely that.
he is raw with his, and he's like in everything he plays in. I just watched something earlier today that he did back in 2014 called um, I forgot the name of it already, but in everything he does, it's like I don't care. You know, I'm going in. This is how it is. I mean, it's just raw, you know. And Forrest Whitaker is like, I mean, his emotions, his dialect, and I mean everything. I watch him very close. I do a lot of what they call scene study, and I watch how they maneuver. I watch their body language. I listen to how they're talking and the range that they're using, and those actors that right there, yeah, I those are my top two right there.
Okay, so great picks. I love both of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
The X movies where they're looking for the next X.
Mm-hmm.
Samuel L. Jackson. That's where I really, really started watching him as an actor because
Okay.
first he was working with Diesel,
Okay. Right.
and so I was really into watching him because I love action flicks. That's one of my all time favorite. That and sci-fi. Love action flicks.
Mm-hmm.
And then he played. What was the name of the movie he played in where he was in the wheelchair? He was in the mental hospital.
Oh, I know what
You
you're
know
talking
which
about.
one I'm talking
I know what
about.
you're talking about. I can't think of the name, but I know
Yeah,
exactly what
and
you're talking
I saw him in a different light
about. Mm-hmm.
in that movie
Yeah.
because that was, even though it was still high energy, he
Mm-hmm.
played a different role than what he played in the previous movies that I had seen him in.
Right.
I've always enjoyed Forrest Whitaker. And I've always enjoyed him because he embodies the characters. He totally
Yes,
embodies the character. And it's
exactly.
like you can't really tell the real character from the
From
part that he's playing.
exactly. And what really got me looking at him was The Great Debaters, where he and Denzel was in the same movie. And but I was drawn to both of them. Okay, because I'm taking nothing from Denzel is one of the greatest actors walking.
Right.
Okay, one of the greatest, hands down. But Forrest Whitaker really caught my attention in that movie. Again, watching his range. When Denzel says something about Jesus was a radical, and Forrest Whitaker just like, watch out now. I mean, he just I was like, he's like, wait a minute now. You think Jesus Christ now? You think Jesus Christ? He went there and then he brought it back down because he was talking about his son and everything being caught with him and all that kind of stuff. So they was in at some meeting and his son snuck in there, but uh those two actors really get my attention, and my goal is to be in a movie, be a supporting actor or one of the leads in a movie with them.
Well, I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sure it'll happen.
Yes. Yes.
So since you're so musically inclined, who is your favorite musician and or singer? Stick and stay as we take a brief commercial break.
Hey everybody, this is your man Ron Godfrey. Tune in and check out my girl Michelle on the Unapologetically Michelle Show.
Now back to our conversation.
Okay. I'm gonna jump back right quick. My favorite actresses are Viola Davis and Angela Bassett.
Okay. I like that.
Yes. Yes.
I like that.
Music. My favorite artists. Whew. Okay. My favorite artist has been, hands down, Michael Jackson.
Wow.
Yes. Hands down. Musically, I mean, his artistry, his and we're both Virgos, so we both have the same mentality of being a perfectionist and everything. So now I do have other musicians that I really, look up to, like Stevie Wonder, Roger Troutman, you know, uh, um, and I love jazz, but my all-time favorite artist is Michael Jackson.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Because he was multi-talented.
Multi-talented.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was really ahead of his time.
Oh yeah,
He
definitely.
was definitely ahead of his time.
Yeah.
I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, Ron. This has been probably one of my highlights. There's been a
Hey.
few that I have thoroughly enjoyed, and this is definitely one of them. So as
Thank
we
you.
close out, is there anything that you would like to close out sharing with our listening and viewing audience?
Yes, I would like to make a statement. Then I would like to say how people can connect with me. Um, First and foremost, I would like to say keep God first. Keep God first in everything you do, and you will not go wrong. Even if you go through a storm, keep Him first. And always remember that the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. So just keep climbing. And that's what I would say. Don't stop. Keep climbing.
Words of wisdom. So
Yep.
how can they get in touch with you if they wanted to check you out? What projects you got coming up? All of that.
Okay. Well, I'm actually getting ready to film a new movie at the end of this month, as a matter of fact, called Controlled Minds, and we're going to be filming right here in Atlanta. I will be playing a detective again. So, but it's a lead role, and I'm excited about it. And you can connect with me on both Facebook and Instagram. And I am Ron Godfrey, or you can hit me up, or you can check out my website, which is rongodfrey.com. Yes.
Okay, so we've got a new movie that we're getting ready to star in. Do we have anything that's about to come out? that you've already finished and wrapped up that's about to hit theaters or about to hit the TV scene?
No, everything that I've done is already out. I'm in the new Mike series, the story about Mike Tyson, which is on Hulu. I'm in episode number 5. I play Desiree Washington's father in that episode,
Okay.
and I'm in a new movie on Tubi. Actually, 2 new movies on Tubi. One being Lust and Deceit, where I play the husband to Tawana Braxton, and
That ought to have been interesting.
yes, yes. I actually met her 5 years ago here in Atlanta. When no, was it? Yeah, here in Atlanta. I was actually driving her sister's tour bus, Tamar's tour bus,
Hmm.
and that's how I met her. You know, Tawana and the whole family. And Tawana, she remembered me when we were on the set, so that was great. And I'm in another movie on Tubi called Dream Conspiracy, as well as The Bridge. So there's 3 projects on Tubi that I'm in. So
Oh, well, we
the,
got to make sure that we support you and check those out.
yeah, I'm on Prime too, Michelle. I'm on Prime. You got to check out Prime now.
What's on Prime?
I'm in a movie called Kitchen Talk on Prime. I'm in a movie called A Polished Soul, which is based on a true story. I'm also on HBO Max in a series called The Staircase. That's based on a true story. So yeah.
So you've been a busy man.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. God is good.
That one yes you got opened up so many doors for you.
Yes, yes. And they're still opening.
Well, we look forward to seeing your name maybe. And I hear too that you won a SAG award.
Not a SAG award, but I have become a SAG actor.
SAG actor. Okay.
Yes, I'm a SAG actor now. SAG award is coming. It's coming.
It's coming. Did I already speak that into
You
existence?
just spoke it. You just
All
spoke
right.
it, and I love you for it. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Ron, for coming on to the show. I appreciate you giving us your time and also sharing your story with our listeners, because a lot of times we think we know, but it's always good to have someone share their story, because you never know who might be touched by the
Right.
words that you share, and will understand, well, if they made it through it, then I certainly can make it through it. There is somebody, because in our minds we'll say, I'm the only one that's ever dealt with something like this. That's what we tell ourselves.
Right,
But then when we hear other people, we find out that that's just not the truth. That's a lie that we have bought into.
right.
And so now comes the time for healing. So thank you again for being on the show, everybody. This is your girl, Michelle, with the Unapologetically Michelle Show, and our guest, Ron Godfrey. Make sure you check out his projects. Make sure you check him out. He's going to be up and coming, got a new movie that he's getting ready to start taping. And we look forward to seeing him in the theaters, on TV, and at those award shows receiving awards. So this is your girl, Michelle, signing off. You guys have a fantastic rest of your evening.